The trend towards free-to-play models in games has alarmed many, and understandably, because it seems like it's a pretty slippery slope to free to start. You might think you're getting a free experience, but you often won't get very far if you're not willing to lay down some of your hard-earned money. We're all familiar with microtransaction shenanigans, and/or mobile games that work on a recharging energy system. The key is often not directly asking for players' cash, but insidiously making the game such a slow burner without it that impatience will get the better of them. Pay-to-win mechanics are a huge pain too. It can create an entirely uneven playing field if some in the lobby of an online title simply bought their way to powerful equipment or characters and proceeded to use them to wreak havoc. Even with all this in mind though, there are still some fantastic unlockables that can be accessed only through gameplay alone. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and this is the 10 best video game unlockables money can't buy. Number 10. The Family Reunion Party. Hades. As anyone who's delved at all into Greek mythology would know, Zeus and his family have a troubled dynamic at best. At worst, it could be described as a monumental and utterly implausible disaster of a relationship. In Supergiant Games' fantastic roguelike Hades, these family relationships are at the fore. Hades rarely speaks of Zeus, Poseidon, and the rest of the godly gang, except in the most contemptuous of tones. As Zagreus completes more and more runs and the story of the game unfolds though, Hades and his are reunited with Persephone, and they slowly hatch a plan to make peace with Olympus. This is the true ending of the game, and it takes an awful lot of dedication and in-game time to make it work. Even more runs later, after Zagreus has boosted his relationship with everybody though, he individually invites all of the Olympians to the House of Hades for the reunion party to end all reunion parties. There's no shortcut to making this happen, no microtransactions, and the exposition is genuinely hilarious and touching in equal measure. Number 9. The Shiny Charm. Pokémon Sword and Shield. What's the key to the Pokémon series' limitless and seemingly eternal appeal? It's probably the fact that Game Freak seems to have captured that all-ages appeal that Nintendo so covets. Younger players and newcomers can happily play their way through the story without major difficulty. For dedicated longtime franchise fans, however, catching them all is something personal, a point of pride, and they're in it for the long haul. Some are determined to catch a shiny version of every Pokémon available. To do this, the Shiny Charm is a huge boon, boosting the chance of a Pokémon spawning as a shiny. There isn't really a practical shortcut to acquiring this charm then, and you certainly can't just buy one in-game. It might seem like a bit of a minor item, but this unlockable truly shows its worth for the dedicated shiny hunters. Did you know it increases the chance of finding a shiny Pokémon in a max lair to 1 in 100? Number 8. SQUALL'S Lionheart Gunblade. Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII boasts several mechanics that are more than a little unconventional. The most prominent of these is the junction system, wherein party members assign specific magic spells to their stats instead of wearing conventional equipment. The issue with this is that characters can either be severely underpowered, especially as enemies level with the player and gain much more generous stat bonuses for doing so, or severely overpowered, depending on how deeply players delve into this system. The same is true of the weapon upgrade system, in which weapons are improved in junk shops, and these items can be acquired very early in the game if the player is sneaky with the card mod ability. It can be tempting to wield SQUALL'S mighty Lionheart Gunblade as soon as possible, but early in the game doesn't necessarily mean quickly. If luck isn't on your side, hours and painstaking hours of triple triad will have to be played to get the right amount of cards to refine for the items you'll need. Our hero's strongest weapon never misses, and scores early critical points with the tap of a button, like all Gunblades. It also has access to the most powerful limit break attack, Lionheart. Wherever you are in the game when you gather that Adamantine, 4 Dragon Fang, and 12 Pulse Ammo though, it's not easy. Number 7. The UNMAKYR, Doom Eternal. Longtime fans of Doom will remember the absolute joy of equipping the BFG and absolutely eviscerating everything in your path. A new generation of Doomslayers, however, might come to associate that feeling with the UNMAKYR too. This delightfully preposterous weapon is accessible in Doom Eternal and has appeared previously in the series, such as in Doom 64. It's unique in that it must be used at close range for the best effects, but the Argent ammo it fires is utterly devastating. At the flick of a switch, the classic BFG 9000 is also on hand too. The UNMAKYR can only be accessed after completing 6 challenging Slayer gates. Head to the Fortress of Doom with a sextet of Empyrean keys in tow and you can claim it for yourself. Number 6. MERYL'S Bandana and OTACON'S Stealth Camouflage. Metal Gear Solid. 1998's Metal Gear Solid wasn't the first entry in the Metal Gear series, but it's certainly the one that garnered a ton of fans. It was theatrical, it was brilliant, it had remarkable set pieces, it was an absolute revelation, very far ahead of its time. All of these traits, of course, continue to be associated with the series, as does its carefully blended mixture of stealth and action. These two disparate qualities are represented perfectly by a very special pair of unlockable items available in Metal Gear Solid's New Game Plus mode, the Bandana and the Stealth Camouflage. The first is available if Solid Snake escaped the Shadow Moses base with MERYL, and the second if he escapes with Otacon. There's really no going wrong with either option. The first grants unlimited ammo to any weapon used while it's equipped, and the latter renders Snake invisible to most security cameras and guards in the game. To experiment with both, you'll need to complete the game twice. Number 5. Crash Dash. Crash Bandicoot Warped. The most important thing to note about the Crash Bandicoot games is that they are old school tough. Simply by making it to the end of each of the game's colourful environments can be taxing, but collecting all the optional gems and relics, that's a whole new level of difficult. The Crash Dash power debuted in Crash Bandicoot Warped, and its effect is simple. You hold a button to make Crash run much faster. Not as flashy as the Fruit Bazooka perhaps, but it's pivotal in making some of those platinum relic times at least remotely attainable. Again, it's an absolute game changer and there are no shortcuts to it. You'll only get it after defeating the game's twin final bosses. Number 4. COS Parasite. Bloodborne. Okay, now granted, you will have to part with real-world money in order to access the DLC that this weapon is located in, but the weapon you'll still have to get for yourself. In order to unlock it, nothing but pure toil and good old-fashioned gaming ability will suffice. At the end of the fishing hamlet, the final area the player explores in the DLC, lurks the Orphan of Kos. This emaciated-looking being emerges from the body of its deceased parent, the Great One known as Kos, and it's vicious indeed. With fast, hard-hitting attacks and tricky parry windows, as well as all manner of unpredictable shenanigans later in the fight, the Orphan of Kos is generally accepted to be one of the game's most challenging bosses. Vanquishing it earns you the Kos Parasite, a horrific Lovecraftian weapon that transforms the player into a sort of jellyfish monster when combined with the Milkweed rune. Itself a tough item to earn in the DLC. As a Lumen would, the hunter can perform a wide range of unique attacks with the Kos Parasite, dealing tremendous amounts of arcane damage. Number 3. Gone. Tekken 3. Tekken 3 was and remains one of the best fighting games ever made, and part of that is due to its quirky roster of characters. The vast hulking true ogre was a horror to behold, but the fierce creature that intrigued players even more was Gon. This tiny dinosaur, the star of the eponymous manga, has no reason for appearing in the game, or the Iron Fist tournament herein, but that's all part of its appeal. The secret character can be unlocked only by inputting its name after nabbing a high score in survival mode, or by beating it in Tekken Ball mode. Presumably due to licensing issues, Tekken 3 hasn't been re-released on any other platform since. Its limited availability may be for the best, as Gon's impossible to hit size and unique flatulence-based attacks were brilliantly frustrating. Number 2. Raid Mode. Resident Evil Revelations. This 2012 release featured Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, and a new supporting cast of characters dealing with a brand new T-Virus conundrum. Progress in the main campaign is tied to unlocking new stages of the game's excellent Raid Mode. This mode is similar to the Mercenaries, an arcade high-score experience Resident Evil fans will also be familiar with. The difference here, however, is that it's made up of bite-sized, individually crafted missions with specific routes and objectives. It could have been a throwaway addition, but many players spent more time here than in the main game, thanks to the incredibly addictive gameplay and wide range of weapons to customize and modify. These systems are extensive, and all of them were expanded upon in the sequel's raid mode. Number 1. Super Luigi Galaxy. Super Mario Galaxy. If you're determined to collect every last star, shine, or moon in a Super Mario title, you're probably always going to be in for a rough time. There are some fiendishly designed courses in the optional content of these titles, and completing 100% of them is no mean feat. The reward for doing so, sadly, isn't always that inspiring. The Nintendo Wii's sublime Super Mario Galaxy, though, had the right idea. Collecting all 120 stars and completing the experience unlocks Luigi as a playable character, and alongside him,
Super Luigi Galaxy.
The stages of this mode are all the same, of course, but Luigi fans will delight in every moment of this mode nonetheless. The green hero controls slightly differently than his brother as usual, with increased jump height and run speed in exchange for lacking traction on the ground. And that's our list, but do let me and everybody else know down in that comment box if there's other great unlockables that you can grab without having to crack your wallet open. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. As always, you can come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm at Jess McDonald, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more great content.